And welcome back, YouTube. It is 6:30 p.m. Wednesday, September 27th, 2023. And today is the first day ever that somebody has upset me so much here that I absolutely felt the need to just leave. Hopefully it's not the end of my job. Hopefully I handled everything appropriately, all things considered. Low IQ Jessie is pushed me a little bit too far today. Do I feel like going into the details of it? I guess I could while I'm driving home. Gosh, I've been like shooting little videos all day long, so if you're watching this video, you follow most of my day. I'm trying to think where my last video left off, and I guess I don't need to get into that much minutia. Just get right to the point. I'm bad about that. Since I'm on foot, when I'm working alone, when I get all the way down to the Dollar Thrifty maintenance line, mind you, there's two Dollar Thrifty maintenance lines. There's the one at Dollar Thrifty Returns, and there's also the one at the Dollar Thrifty Car Wash. When I get to the maintenance line at the Dollar Thrifty Returns, if there's no maintenance cars, then I look to see if there's anything that needs to go down. Now, I'm not an up-down driver, but it's work that needs done. I'm there. I can do it. All the staff, which are Hertz employees at Dollar Thrifty, seems to absolutely appreciate that I do it. In fact, many of them have thanked me and told me how much they appreciate me, especially when I get in there. Ooh, this is awkward. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go down Washington, down Jefferson to Washington rather than get into that congestion headed to the freeway. There have been many times where I've gone down there and they've been just shorthanded. Either their returns are backing up or they have no available rental cars and they have no one to bring them up, and they're just thankful I showed up. And I will handle that until an up-down crew gets there to kind of relieve me, just to make sure that everything keeps flowing well over at Dollar and Thrifty. Their management has talked to me about that. They're very appreciative of it. Now, the first vehicle that I take down, I will circle the lot, because there's a proper maintenance line downstairs near the Dollar Thrifty Car Wash, and then there's a place where they sometimes put the maintenance cars underneath the ramp. So I'll circle all that just to make sure that there's no maintenance cars. And if I see one parked that doesn't have a maintenance issue written on the window, I'll stop in that car, hop in the car that's not noted, and start it up to see what the issue is. And since I roll with a paint pen, which was given to me, I've actually had two pens given to me. One by the MLS supervisor that is second underneath Rob. I forget her name. She's a very nice middle-aged Hispanic woman who just recently came back within the last couple of weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks. And she said she's the one who trained Rob. I've only really had two conversations with her, but they were both extremely positive. She was extremely positive of me, and said she appreciated what I was doing and stuff. And then, yeah, she's been keeping an eye on stuff and just keep what you're doing. What you're doing is awesome. So, what I understand, that's where I stand with her. Generally speaking, up till tonight, I feel like that's where I've stood with Anthony as well. Leader Anthony, not Angry Elf Anthony. That's a separate tragedy. And for the most part, him and I have been in a pretty good place. Angry Elf Anthony. So, do not get sidetracked on that. So, she told me I'm doing great every time I've seen her. Now, the last time I did have an issue with low IQ Jessie, and I mentioned in the vlog, he came at me and gave me a lecture that I translated into drive like I say, don't drive like I drive. And I think I went into a little more detail about that. If I haven't, I don't really want to. But the bottom line is I was doing something that was completely safe and maybe not following the lines per se, but I was driving very slowly. I was being very cautious. There was nobody. Just last night, Jessie did the same thing, driving over lines, but when he did it quite quickly, and he cut me off as I was going down the throughway on the outside of the perimeter of the car rental center garage. And I saw who it was. It was most definitely Jessie. So not only breaking the thing that he told me I needed to not do, oh, you can't drive across those lines or they'll write you up. Now, I don't know who he means by they, but it is my understanding that ultimately I answer to Hertz. And Hertz has always been very complimentary of everything that I do. All the Hertz people. The only one who ever seems to have any beef with me is Jessie. I think it's a personal issue. I think he has short man's disease. I think that's part of it. And I think he's intimidated by the fact that I'm clearly substantially more intelligent than he is. And then I've called him out on a couple of his things he was wrong about. Some people can't handle that. Most notably, in the time I got the most just freak out reaction from him was when he told me that a car had 42,000 to bring it over to dollar, which is exactly what we were looking for, to bring over to dollar. We were looking for cars that were higher mileage by Hertz standards. In other words, over 25,000, because 25,000 is the limit for President's Choice. But it was a brand new Chevy Bolt. The odds of one of those having over 45,000 were like slim to none, because they only have a full battery charge, about 188 mile range. They take a long time to charge. I do think there's a supercharger option in it, but I don't think people use it very often. So yeah, when people rent those, they don't go very long distances in them. And these are all brand new cars, so it's rare that I see one that has over 10,000 miles. Certainly not 42,000 miles. Well, I get in it at 4,200 miles. So I walked away from it because that didn't fit the criteria. The cars were supposed to be moving. At which point he asked very aggressively and angrily, "Why you get out of that car? I told you to move that car." Yeah, it doesn't have 42,000. It has 4,200. Well, who cares? It doesn't matter. Obviously, it does matter. Why are you lying to me? Because I pointed out that you don't know the difference between 4,200 and 42,000. And let me rephrase that. I'm sure he does know the difference between 4,200 and 42,000. Wasn't paying attention and made a mistake. I get it. I make those kind of mistakes all the time. But when I caught a mistake and I'm trying to do the correct thing, I don't need attitude from him of like, it doesn't matter, I'm your boss, I told you to do it. No, you told me to move the car that has 42,000 miles. That car has 4,200 miles. It doesn't meet the criteria to be moved. Anyway, whoa, I just got a peek inside the old Ruby Tuesdays building and it is completely gutted. So maybe they're prepping it for a tenant. Sorry I'm going in so many different directions at once, but there's layers to this. So anyway, the last time when he criticized my driving, basically telling me not to do something that he does on the regular, when I did it in a way that was safe, and I can't imagine anybody but him would have a problem with it. He's just trying too hard to be a boss, when he should just slow his roll. As somebody who has management experience, his management style is absolute shit, and I can see it. I'm done with it. Maybe this is the catalyst I need to get myself into a job that pays enough for me to pay all my bills. Perhaps. I don't want it to be. I love my job at MLS. But I'm not going to continue to put up with this. It's ruining it for me. If I'm going to be in an uncomfortable situation, I'd rather be in an uncomfortable situation that's paying $19 an hour, not one that's paying $15 or $16 an hour. So when he gave that lecture, and at that point I was really bothered. Now, up until that point, it was my understanding that he was only an up-down lead. And I was told that when I came onto maintenance that I would be the night maintenance lead. Now, I've never been given a yellow vest for that. It's never really been discussed as my position as whether or not I'm lead, but I mean, that's what I was told before I even started at it. When I was still working at Domino's Pizza and I needed to get back to Rob to find out, well, hey, what 2 nights of the week does Domino's need me most? So those can be my nights off here. Of course, that became a non-issue not long after when another low-level manager pushed me to the point I had to leave. That is a bit of a me problem, but I'm not going to let somebody push me to the point that I snap. My mental health is bad mental health, and keeping that in check, above all else, is the most important thing to me. I don't need to have a breakdown. I don't need to have a freak out. Period. Not at work, not anywhere. And I'm prone to those as someone with schizoaffective disorder and bipolar disorder, axis 2, and also ASD. So anyway, as I was saying, when that happened, the woman, and I wish I could remember her name, the middle-aged Hispanic woman who's number 2 in command, who absolutely loves what I'm doing, I wanted to tell her about the incident while she was still there. But when I went through the office, she was actually directing a whole bunch of new hires to go with Jessie and that he would be training him. That's not the time to bring that up. I'm not going to do something that's going to make his trainees disrespect him in front of him. That's just completely inappropriate. That goes back to the incident that happened when I was at Amazon, when Lyrica had decided that he wanted to transition, which he changed his mind about that. That's a whole separate issue. But he wanted to transition, that he wanted to be referred to as she. That's a really big deal at Amazon. It's not a really big deal to me, but I respect Lyrica as a person. I don't use pronouns. I never use pronouns around Lyrica. I call him by his name because I know his name and I remember his name. He was my learning ambassador and first trainer when I started at Amazon. So yeah, I really appreciate it. In Africa No Bottoms, which I think that might be the incident he got fired for, when Lyrica had a whole bunch of trainees, he came in and just said something really disrespectful regarding Lyrica's gender and not accepting it and not going to call him, whatever. Call him by his name. How hard is that? Oh, I misgendered him. Anyway, I think I made my point. So yeah, I'm not gonna disrespect Jessie like that. That's completely bad form. It's not the time and the place. I'll discuss that with her when I can get one-on-one time with her, not in front of trainees, not in front of Jessie. Well, that time hasn't happened, and that incident for the most part is just completely blown over since then. So, red light runner. Do we got another one? Nope, everybody else stopped. So yeah, I just kind of let it blow over. Figured, well, as a general rule, I kind of try to avoid Jessie. When I see he's working in an area, I try to direct myself to another area. That's the best way to avoid conflict. That's generally how I've been avoiding conflict with Angry Elf Anthony. I do my job. I stay busy. There's always enough work for me to, pretty much always enough work for me to stay busy. There's enough different things I'm trained to do. So, tonight, I'm doing the thing over at Dollar, where I get to Dollar. There's no maintenance cars, so I go to a maintenance car, I do the loop, I see that there's no maintenance cars downstairs, so I put it in the dirty line, and I grab a car that needs to go up to Dollar Thrifty. It's some kind of a Nissan sedan. Now, I don't know exactly what they consider a mid-size sedan and a full-size sedan in the way they group them at Dollar. And I do occasionally get them wrong. I know the Malibus are full size. I know some other cars which are exactly the same size as the Malibus are considered mid-size. I consider all of that mid-size. The only car that we bring up to Dollar that I would consider full-size cars are the Dodge Chargers, and those go in reserve because they're considered a special car as opposed to just a mid-size or a full-size. I digress. I really don't worry about it too much. I put it where I think it belongs. I figure since nothing goes into reserve stalls and they don't get put into a computer, with Dollar Thrifty, I can park it there. If someone comes along later and sees it's in the wrong spot, they can move it. Not a problem. So as I'm parking it, low IQ Jessie comes at me very aggressively. And man, this is one of those many things that I really want to get me some recording glasses. God, I would love to have some video footage of it to show just the attitude that he gives me, because the way he presents himself to me when it's just him coming at me and talking to me is completely different than the way he presents himself and addresses me whenever there's other people present. For the most part. I mean, there's certainly been some times where I feel, addressed me inappropriately when it was in front of full crews. But as far as like when there's anybody who's remotely a supervisor, he takes on a completely different tone, which ended up happening today in front of Anthony. By the way, I'm shooting on Obamaphone 3. I just put one of those little 2 gig SD cards in it, which holds so very little. I was planning on doing that so that I could finish my story, but there's been a development that happened as I was in the process of swapping the SD card out in Obamaphone 3. And by the way, the woman whose name I can't seem to remember, I know it now, it's Monique. So I'm gonna have to kind of speed this story up so I can get to what's going on. By the way, I'm headed back to MLS in an attempt to talk to Monique. Now, I don't know how late she's there. I think there's a good chance she might have left at 7. If I missed her, I missed her. And that's fine. And maybe I should just let it slide. I've been kind of trying to ignore the issue. I've just been avoiding Jessie to make the problem go away. But it seems like in the course of me just trying to stay busy and work, Jessie goes out of his way Wow, this guy's brights in front of me are so bright I can't see anything, and I think he's parked on the wrong side of the road. Yeah, he's parked on the wrong side of the road with his brights on. Thanks, asshole. It's a big white van. I half expected it to be a cop, but anyway. Thanks for that, asshole, with your big white van. So, goodness, where was I before I driving down a road so blinded by his brights that if a pedestrian walked out in front of me, I'd have been hard-pressed to see them. My dim ass headlight's not helping with that situation. I really need to get those lenses replaced. It's just one of those things that's been on my radar for so long that I just never seem to have the extra money for. So, gosh, where was I with the whole story? So today, as I was saying, I took a vehicle up because there were no maintenance vehicles down by the dollar car wash. Some kind of a Nissan sedan. It seems like when I've made mistakes, it's been when I've been rolling with, actually it was when I was rolling with Jessie when I first really came to the conclusion that his leadership style was bad. It was the same time where he confused 4,200 with 42,000. There were some other issues, and maybe I should let them out so they're fresh in my mind, so when I go talk to Monique, I can explain them to her. So one of the things that is a rule, and do I regularly break it? Oh yes, yes I do. There's to be no cell phone use within the cars. Now, granted, I occasionally vlog in the cars, but just to be clear, I start the phone recording and make sure it's in a position, and then I just leave it recording while I'm driving. Other than that, nothing different. And I'm certainly not using it to do any kind of texting or checking anything while I'm driving the cars. Now, I do it in the cars, but before I move or after I park the car. But for the most part, my phones stay in my pocket when I'm working. Today is kind of a rare exception just because, I don't know, I was in the mood to let some thoughts out and kind of share my day, because today had been pretty awesome until the Jessie situation. And I wanted to note that I saw Angry Elf Anthony coming in at 4 p.m. because I've always wondered exactly what time he comes in, because I'll be working doing a lot of electric stuff, and then he'll be there, and it's like, well, I haven't seen him for hours, or where'd he come from? So obviously he works a less than 8-hour shift. No issues with him today, just for the record. Hardly had any contact with him today, just for the record. That was intentional. Try not to have any contact with Jessie today. However, I parked the Nissan. Oh, I was going to say the other issue I had when I was rolling with him in the crew. So yeah, there's not supposed to be any cell phone use in the car. So we're riding along, and there's this one young, attractive white girl that rolls with us. Now, I know she's got a boyfriend because her boyfriends were calling. Jessie so blatantly hits on her, puts her in the front seat when he's driving a shag around, and so blatantly hits on her. And I found most of the time, like, he was telling me to move cars, but he wasn't telling her to move cars, so she could just keep riding around with him while he's driving around in a shag. Yeah, that's pretty bad leadership. But where it actually went as far as breaking an MLS rule is she plugged her phone into the car. Okay, now we pretty much all do that, but that's just to maintain power on their phones. At least that's the only way I use it. But no, he stopped while we were supposed to be doing work, and while we were doing work, he stopped, and we must have sat for like 5, maybe 10 minutes while they both played with the screen in the car to configure it so she could play her music from her cell phone. We're not even supposed to be using the phones in the car. So if he's going to be Mr. Hey, you're not following this rule, you're not following this rule, in my face about it, he needs to really fucking check who's not following the rules. Also, I regularly see him and people that are sitting up by him sitting on seatbelts. They'll fasten the seatbelt so that it doesn't make the alarm go ding, ding, ding in the car, and then they'll sit on the seatbelts. It blows my mind that people do that. I mean, to me, that's more annoying than putting on the seatbelt. Like, I get it. We're getting in and out of the cars frequently. It's a pain in the ass, but buckle up the damn seatbelt. It's a company thing. You're at work. I am wearing my seatbelt right now, but I don't always wear my seatbelt when I'm in my personal car, but that's a whole other deal. This isn't work. Always work. And they're both talking about how they don't like wearing their seatbelts, but we got to do it because there's MLS corporate people looking around. They're writing people up. No, you should do it because it's the right thing to do. Don't do it because you're afraid of getting caught. But that's one of the reasons why I call them low IQ and Jessie, because to me that's a display of low IQ. That was just one of many incidents. There was another one where, now to be fair, I think Rob had put Frenchman Emmanuel and me, both him and Jessie, said, hey, help them do some up-down stuff. Because at that point, maintenance was all caught up. They didn't want maintenance drivers, us as maintenance drivers, just wandering around doing nothing. That's the whole reason I've learned to do so many other things. So I'm not just a maintenance driver wandering around doing nothing. I get it. Rob directed us for all of him. That's fine. And to be honest, he's never been like this with me till Jessie. I mean, has never been this trying to boss over me until that day. Prior to that, he always stayed in his own lane. I was told I was maintenance lead. I handle maintenance. I don't tell him what to do. I don't tell this stuff what to do. I did tell him what to do today. Boy, he didn't like that. It's like 4:30, and Emmanuel is saying, "Oh, it's 4:30. I'm off. I need to go." And he goes, "Oh, we can take you down the break room." Now, mind you, we're at $1.50 return, so we're quite a distance. At that point, I'm like, "Hey, there's a maintenance car. Why don't you go ahead and take that down?" And I'm saying that to Emmanuel, because keep in mind, I've been told I'm maintenance lead, and I generally don't tell Emmanuel what to do. I generally don't tell anybody what to do. But when I see a solution for a situation, I certainly voice it, whether I'm lead or not. And so I see a maintenance car. Well, while we're doing up-downs with Jessie, the maintenance cars aren't getting handled, so I saw a chance for us to continue focusing on our up-downs and Emmanuel to leave so we could all be productive. And he could handle at least one maintenance task and get it down there and then clock out and end his day. He's a maintenance driver. He knows what to do with that, and I know he knows what to do with that. I don't think Jessie does know what to do with that maintenance task. I don't think Jessie's qualified to do my job. I really don't. And to be fair, I'm not qualified to do his job. He was asking me to clear the flip ramp today. That was the thing that the straw that broke the camel's back for me today, was that he was asking me to clear the flip ramp. Okay, well, I don't know where every vehicle that goes the flip ramp goes. That's why I still put as many in the flip ramp as I do. But he asked me nicely to help with that, so I did. So I come over, and I see some electrics, and I know that there's no open chargers for it, and I know Anthony's kind of... little Anthony's kind of working actively on the electric, so I go ahead and leave them for him. And I see one of the Dodge Shelby Chargers. As a maintenance driver, it's my understanding, I'm allowed to move those. I move them all day long on the regular, on the maintenance yard and to the maintenance yard. So it's not like I'm not allowed to move those cars. In fact, beginning of my day today, and I vlogged about that, I moved one of those into Ultimate, and then I couldn't put it into the system because it didn't have the right kind of tag where I could scan it. Or have the 3-letter code for when the scan doesn't work. I didn't realize it didn't have that kind of tag. I brought that to a Hertz manager. If there was a problem with me moving that vehicle, I'm sure the Hertz manager would have said something. They're a Hertz manager. They are above MLS. We're subcontractors to them. At which point she asked me what it was and thanked me for bringing it up and took the slips as you get it in the system. So obviously there's not an issue with me moving that. But I walked to that car, and this is the end of the thing, and I'm sorry I'm cutting forward with it, but I'm almost back now, and I need to go talk to my knee. So, ooh, transmission not shifting nicely right now. It's actually been pretty good lately. So he comes running back at me right as I sit in the car and start it up. No, you can't move that one. Only leads and managers can move those. I'm done arguing with Jessie. I didn't even say another thing back. I just get out of the car and I just walk away. Like, he's still ranting, I'm over it. It's a well-established fact I can move those cars. I'm not a fan of those cars anyway. I'm not picking it because, ooh, I get to drive a Shelby. I'm picking it because I know where it goes. It goes to Ultimate. And I regularly bring cars to Ultimate at the direction of Hertz management. Yeah, that was the last drop. I'm done with this. And he came up to me while I was at Electric, and I was kind of dismayed that he was back to approaching. Like, I know what my job is. I know what I'm doing. I don't need you up here fucking micromanaging me. I don't need it. That's what I'm thinking in my head. But he's coming at me really nice-like. So I'm trying to play along, be helpful. Let's be a team here. And that's what led up to me getting in the Shelby, and then I'm freaking out about it, and then me just like... Yeah, I'm done. At the point where I said I was done, as I went to one of the maintenance cars, which is a 6-hole telemetry. I know where to go. Unfortunately, I already organized the lot pretty well, so I wasn't leaving them a messy lot. now is to say how much, let go in the gatekeeper between now and 11:30, or between an hour ago and 11:30, when I left. It's hard to say, but I left my area very nice. I don't like leaving an area bad, even when I'm leaving pissed off. Anyway, I fired off some text messages, and I read those. So I immediately texted Anthony, because after the original thing, which I really never got in the details on, I'm out of time for that, but I'll get to it, which ended up being just a straight up argument with him. But I mean, he came at me aggressively. Like, if I was putting it in the wrong slot, that's fine. Tell me I'm putting it in the wrong slot. Don't get in my face and ask me what it is I'm doing. Dude, I'm fucking working. Get out of my face. All he had to say was, hey man, that's full size, not mid size. And I would have said, okay, thank you. And that would have been the end of the interaction. But it ended up being this whole thing. At which point I'm just like, do you want me to move this car there, or are you going to move the car there? Well, of course, he immediately gets on the phone with Anthony, Supervisor Anthony, leader, main night lead Anthony, and this blah, 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 blah. Daniel, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I don't need it. I can get a better job than this that pays more. Probably not one that I will like as much, but that's beside the point. And then I'm walking to electric. I'm getting ready to pull one off that has a blue light in the main electric area. And then I see Anthony off the way. Say, hey, Daniel. I'm like, come ways over to me. So I come over. I have no issue with Anthony. Anthony's always been nothing short than respectful to me. He's been a pleasure to work with, pleasure to work for. So he comes up, and then Jessie comes out of nowhere. He's like, well, we're going to settle this once for all. I'm like, okay, let's settle this. Completely trying to mischaracterize what our interaction was like. And that's why I wish I had a recording device, so I could play back the recording. Really, you want to know how you acted? Let's watch this. Let's pull the micro SD card out of my glasses and put it in my phone. Let's all watch this. Let's see your low IQ actions on display and your unnecessary micromanagement on display. Basically what he was doing, and obviously it's Anthony's trying to avoid conflict. He's like, look, just don't do those. And he's like, well, you get there, if there's no one there, just walk back. And he's trying to keep, I can see where he's trying to avoid the conflict thing. And props to Anthony for doing this. He's like, yeah, just let Jessie and his crew handle the up downs. We've got plenty of people tonight. And if you see there's nothing there, I know it's a lot of walking, but just go ahead and walk back to Hertz maintenance. We need, you need to focus on Hertz. We got more stuff going on Hertz. I'm like, well, okay, no problem. I mean, I don't think it's the best thing to do, but I mean, Anthony's asking me nicely. It makes sense. That's fine. It avoids the conflict. I'm, fine. No problem. But Jessie still finds a way to get back in my face at the very next opportunity and redirect what I'm doing. Yeah, okay. But the thing with the Shelby was like enough. And now before the thing with the Shelby, I'd walk back over there. And I'm walking down the line from the back into the elevators, because I would try to pull the ones out of the line. That's what everybody's asking me to do, pull the ones out of the line rather than the ones that are against the wall out of the return line before the ones that are in the maintenance line, because it helps the up-down drivers by getting them out of the way. So I see one of the Hertz guys processing a return that has already wrote maintenance stuff on it. He's just about done. So I'm kind of standing by him so he could get it done. I can get it out of there. And then Jessie's like, hey, not Jessie, but Anthony. So like, hey, can you get that expedition over there? And I couldn't really see the expedition, so I had to kind of like, hey, closer. It was like right in the sun, and I have issues seeing stuff when I'm looking right in the sun. I'm just seeing a shadow. I couldn't tell it was an expedition. I'm like, okay, no problem. Well, I get to it. I had no key. So I went ahead and texted him just to let him know that, hey, I'm not doing what you asked me to do, just I can't move that. And I texted him back, and I wrote I'm going to my messages from Anthony. I wrote, the expedition is locked and missing its key. And he said, okay, ask one of the IRFs, maybe they can assist. If not, it's okay, thank you. Very respectful. I've never had any issues with Anthony. Lead Anthony, not to be confused with Angry Elf Anthony. So that was it. I didn't even feel any response. Like, he knows that I did it, and I'm down here working on the gatekeeper line. Well, when I finally get back up there, that's when things get dumb. And oh my goodness, my phone's. I hope I don't inadvertently send Anthony something, because the bottom of my screen kind of does its own thing sometimes. Anyway, then the incident happens with Jessie. Of course, Anthony's not there. I said, and at that point, I'm getting in the maintenance car, and I quickly fired off to text him. I said, I'm sorry, but I've just, again, had more Jessie than I can handle for one day. He told me earlier he was going to write me up and send me home. I'll save him the trouble. Have a good night. In our first interaction, I wasn't going to go much of the details of the one, where he got in my face about putting a mid-sized car in or what he's considered a full-size car in a mid-sized car spot. And then he's just all, what are you doing? What are you doing? One of the things he's threatened to. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Well, if you want to do that, knock yourself out. That's what I said. Because I don't care. That's not a threat to me. Don't threaten me with sending me home. I'm more than happy to go home. I've got better job offers coming into my phone from ZipRecruiter and from like 3 different recruiting websites every day. Don't push me. I'm valued here. Maybe not by you, but by everybody else. Anyway, I said I'll send him trouble. Have a good night. Well, apparently he had already talked to Anthony about it, because Anthony replied quickly with, "It's okay, Dan. Only supervisors can drive Shelbys. That's Hertz policy. The direction that's communicated to staff from leadership has to start being followed more. I have a maintenance SUV on the Hertz point ready for you. Again, if maintenance is caught up upstairs and down, then you can do up downs, a clean to the flip and a dirty down to the point, or you can ride along with Anthony in EV or one of the vans. That helps the team most. We all have to be more consistent, work safely. It works safely. Thank you." Very diplomatic. Again, no issue with him other than the Shelby thing. And I wrote, "As a maintenance driver, I have been driving Shelby since day one. That's not even the issue. It's Jessie's disrespectful attitude and hypocrisy. I could give you a full list of MLS safety rules and other policies Jessie does not follow. I already messaged Rob about it. Sorry to leave you shorthanded, but I genuinely have reached my limit. Understand I appreciate and have no issue with you. Have a good night." To which he quickly responded, "You as well, Dan. Thank you." Well, I also sent one to Rob, who's the big boss. And on that one I wrote, I said, "When I come in tomorrow at 2, I need to talk to you about Jessie. My apologies if it creates an issue, but I'm heading home before it becomes a larger, completely different, unnecessary issue." And he wrote, "Sounds good. But Monique, the assistant site manager, is there now. You can talk with her." But I was probably driving home when he responded. And I wrote okay at 6:58, and it is now 7:29. So let's go see if Monique is still there.